Hello and welcome back to another weekly astrology forecast. I'm Laura Chung. Welcome back and thank you to all the Patreon members who fund this weekly forecast. So this is for the week of December 1st through 7th. This is the first week of December, the last month of 2025, and this is going to feel like you're at a pivot point, like you're at a crisis point. You can no longer go the way you've been going through this last year of your life, this last 2 years of your life, three, four, five decade of your life, but you can't quite see where the future is leading you towards. But you would have gotten a preview of it this summer when all of the outer planets, including Saturn, were in their fire and air signs, respectively. So I just want to say that this is the last full moon of 2025. It feels like a big deal. The month of December is going to feel a little crunchy to a lot of people, especially if you have a mutable rising sign, since there's going to be ongoing squares all month between the sign of Sagittarius and Pisces. So if you happen to be a mutable rising sign, the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, then two areas of your life, the angular houses, are going to feel like you're at this crisis point. Okay. And I do think that these squares between Sagittarius and Pisces are going to challenge our belief systems, our optimism for life, and our faith in our own destiny and the future of the collective. But I do think that it's setting us up for the potential of 2026. So let's get right to the top of the week. On December 2nd, Venus in Sagittarius will sextile Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree. And this is really great energy if you are a community organizer. This is a great day to galvanize people, to organize with people who have aligned values, who believe in a better future. Venus is the planet of our relationships, our ability to attract people who have aligned values. It is the planet about values and worth. And in the sign of Sagittarius, Venus and Sagittarian people, if you ever meet somebody with this placement, really do believe in an optimistic future. They tend to be adventurous people. They tend to invest their money and time in learning about different cultures, different spiritual modalities, religions, and are interested in foreign relations. Okay, so that signature in a sextile, which is a 60-degree angle, this is our harmonious aspect, is in an aspect with Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto is the god of the underworld. It is the planet that portends to death, rebirth, and transformation. In Aquarius, which is the sign of the heretic, this is the sign of innovation and rebellion and revolution at 1 degree. So this is, like I said, a great day to organize with people who have the same vision for the future, to even get on social media, whatever your medium is, whether it is Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Substack, or a blog, perhaps. Do people even have blogs anymore? A vlog and just share your hopes for the future. What is helping you get through these dark times? What are some of your belief systems? One question that I ask in to my guest that I co-host with my friend Leah on our podcast called Cha is, what is like one quote, book, or movie that has been getting you through some of these more challenging times? So again, when Venus gets together with Pluto, the god of the underworld, this is a great day to do some sort of direct actions, to organize with people, go to a protest together. Because ultimately, a sextile is a harmonious relationship. Now, on December 4th, this is what I was alluding to at the beginning of this video. We have a full moon in the sign of Gemini at 13 degrees, and this happens at 6:14 p.m. Eastern time. So please adjust for your time zone. Now, you want to think back to May 26th. There was a new moon here at 6 degrees of Gemini. So you want to look at your Gemini house, all of the topics that are in your Gemini house and the people involved in your Gemini house. And this is the full moon from that intention setting at May 26th. This is the 6 month full moon culmination energy. However, I find it interesting that the moon is squaring is at the bends. So that means that the moon is squaring the nodes. So the full moon in Gemini is squaring the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo at the exact same degrees, at 13 degrees. And whenever you find a planet at the bendings, so in my natal chart, I have Saturn at the bendings, and it often describes a crisis point. And this one is a north node bending. So, manifesting the characteristics of a Pisces North Node is remembering that we all are part of one consciousness, that we are all part of one source, that there is this magic within spirituality while embodied in the human form, the South Node in Virgo. And since it's a North bending towards the Gemini moon, it's like remembering that each of us have a specific need to repair and care in our relationships because the nodes tend to describe who we are attracted to. They are relational, right? Because it is the nodes are the intersection between the ecliptic and the moon's path around us. So this is where the eclipses happen. Um, so this is like a crisis point, okay? And Gemini moons tend to want to talk about their feelings versus feeling them. They like to intellectualize their feelings. But because Gemini is about the choice, a lot of people will have to make a choice at this time. This is a pivot moment of like, are you going to keep being in your comfort zone or are you going to surrender to the unknown, North Node in Pisces, right? So I think in 2025, the astrology was really showing you both realities. It was showing you what's going to happen if you don't allow yourself to expand to the capacity of discomfort and talking about some of these more taboo topics. And that's really also in alignment with 2025 being the year of the yin wood snake. The wood element is us creating something different or new, something new emerging, right? It portends to spring. And the snake, which is an animal that sheds its skin, it sheds the old. It is the symbol of transformation and Kundalini energy, creative energy. But the snake energy was also asking us to talk about some taboo topics that maybe we don't normally talk about, like sex and creativity as an energy to create something, whether it's in a form of a baby, a child, or our creative projects. Also, talking about money and how many people are financially unwell and project all of their traumatic feelings and experiences onto money, which in reality is supposed to help us, perform our mission here on earth. But so many of us grew up with immigrant parents or parents who had an unhealthy relationship to money that was passed down to us. And so, how many of us, millennials, Gen Z, Generation X, have had to really heal our relationship to money? All of these topics um, was the invitation for the year of the wood snake. And next year is going to be the year of the yang fire horse, which a lot of these energies move very quickly. And being more passionate and adventurous with our choices. It's a year to take risks. And I do think it's in alignment with Western astrology and what we're being asked to do. But for 2025, you were shown two realities. You were shown like, this is what your life can be like in your comfort zone. It's going to be really fucking uncomfortable. Um, and but the thing is most people will choose the devil that they know versus the devil that they don't know. Or did you take 2025 to really expand yourself, to really sit in the discomfort of what has been, what was, what your ancestor did or did not do, um, and really be so authentic to yourself that you are unapologetic about why you're here on this planet at this specific time. And a lot of the ways in which we have to maneuver in the upcoming years, as we are obviously like we are already in the age of revolution with all of these outer planets being in their new signs. And like I said, we saw a preview of it this summer with Uranus moving into Gemini, Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries, and Pluto being in Aquarius for the next 20 years. We are already in the age of revolution. And so what that's going to require is for us to be people we've never been before. We have to be so authentic to ourselves. We have to be bold in our choices. We have to be in full alignment with our authentic selves in the way that we speak, in the way that we behave, in the way that we choose to spend our money and our time. And that was the invitation of 2025. And I'm sorry to say that not everybody is going to choose the latter. Not everyone's going to choose the red pill because so many people I see in the United States are choosing the life of comfort that unfortunately in the underbelly of empire is at the cost of people in the global south. And it's so interesting because I see people commenting on my videos who've never watched my videos before. So I just want to say as a disclaimer, I am not for everybody. My astrology is not for everybody because my astrology is for people who are ready to take action. Like astrology can be very intellectual, right? You learn the foundations of astrology and you learn how to read the transits and you learn what astrology is. But I feel like what makes my astrology different and my interpretation of it is that it requires us to take action to experience something different. We have to be also the embodiment of these energies in order for us to see the change that we want to see. We can't just sit idly by and wait for a savior because we are the ones we've been waiting for. So I feel like at this full moon, it's a huge pivot point. We have to decide. And with these retrogrades going on in the fall, this was the moment I've been saying this every single week and in every single monthly zodiac horoscope that I've been putting out to my Patreon is that from September to December, like Q4, essentially, when all these planets were going retrograde, was our moment of review and recalibration of like, okay, I have to sort of like tweak this thing in my life. I have to make these different changes. I have to do this kind of internal work because a lot of these outer planets went back into the feminine signs. So Saturn and Neptune went back into Pisces. Uranus went back into Taurus. This is about inner reflection and how we have to change from within to see the outer change in our environment. So this full moon is again that choice. Gemini is the twins. It's the archetype of choice. So, this is why I think this is such a critical moment because the full moon is at the bendings. And then the very next day on December 5th, the sun will be square the nose. The sun will be at the bendings, and the sun is currently in Sagittarius. So it's really going to test our sense of faith and our creative expression and the ways in which we decide to show up. But going back to the full moon, this is in the second decan of Gemini, which is represented by the Nine of Swords. This is a Mars ruled decan. And as you can see, the figure has their head in its hands. And I have to be honest, for me, this is one of the most difficult cards in the minor arcana. When you get this card, it's like, oh, I really need to check my mental health. I really need to ground my energy because this is about like your anxieties and fears and how you spiral so much that you cannot sleep, you cannot rest. Your mind is constantly like at battle with itself. And so, again, at this full moon, you just might be really anxious and worried about something, worried about the future. Because again, I think most people who intuitively follow astrology, they know that they cannot continue a certain behavior, right? Patterns. If you start recognizing your patterns, you have to start disrupting them. But it's those patterns that make us feel safe. So you might be in this energy. Now, the ruler of this full moon is Mercury at 22 degrees of Scorpio. And so Mercury is going over its pre-shadow, post-shadow degrees because just like 2 days before this, or a couple of days before this, Mercury went direct. And now Mercury is retracing its steps from the retrograde. And what I do like about this is that Mercury is applying to a trine to Jupiter in Cancer. and also applying to a trine to Saturn and then Neptune in Pisces. Um, and then Mercury, like this is like a couple of degrees out, but it's applying to an opposition to Uranus. So there is some support, right? Mercury is going to experience a grand water trine. And so there is some support, this like emotional catharsis. And what this is telling me is to like, if you are going through this moment where you're indecisive or you feel like you're at a crisis point, is to share this with a confidant, with a friend, with an ally, with somebody that you can share honestly your feelings about. And I know Mercury and Scorpio, it tends to be Mercury and Scorpio tends to be this energy of like, I'm just going to observe. I'm not necessarily going to share. But I think at this point, like this is post retrograde. If you have somebody that you trust, this can be a great day to share with somebody that you deeply trust and create intimacy with your relationship. But also maybe think of ways where you can express your feelings and emotions in ways that maybe aren't verbal, right? I'm just thinking like Mercury trine Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune, maybe using this time to share in an art form or music or listening to vibration and sound in order for you to have that emotional release and catharsis. Because at the end of the day, this is a full moon, so a lot of emotions do come to the surface. And sometimes we can't articulate necessarily what it is that we're feeling, what it is that we're thinking. But I think at this time, a lot of people are feeling confused and just like not sure what direction to take. And this is where I always say, like, the best thing to do at this moment is to surrender. It is to just sit with everything and allow the energy to subside. And maybe like a day or two after this full moon energy is starting to separate, that's when you'll start to get the clarity of what kind of decision you need to make. Again, this is not an easy energy for me, but I think we need to go through these moments where we are at a crisis point because just like the grit that rubs against the pearl in an oyster, that's how the oyster forms through the grit in the sand. That's how I like to describe square relationships in astrology, is that without that grit, without that tension, something creative cannot emerge. Something beautiful cannot emerge. So just keep that in mind as you're going through December 4th. Again, you're going to feel this energy 3 days before, 3 days after this lunation, but it's the last full moon of 2025. So I already talked about December 5th, the sun will square the nose, the sun will be at the bendings. And now December 6th, Mercury in Scorpio will trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer at 24 degrees. I think this is really lovely. It's kind of baked into this full moon energy, but Mercury trine Jupiter in Cancer feels like this really healing moment where maybe you do, like I said, confide in somebody and you share your thoughts and your feelings with them, and they just offer you some support at this time. And then on December 7th, Mercury will trine Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees. Now, these are trines. So these are harmonious aspects where the planets are in the same element. So the element being water. And water does not necessarily, it's not necessarily like a very talkative thing, but more of like, feeling through something. And I like to have this analogy with like, they're called bridge walkers. And I see this too with like people who have either stelliums or their sun, moon, or chart ruler in the fourth, eighth, and 12th houses, which are like the hidden houses, right? People who have placements here tend to be bridge walkers. Like they can sense things without necessarily needing to have it be communicated to them or necessarily like seeing it in the physical. Bridge walkers are able to feel vibes and to feel feelings of vibrations and things kind of like percolating and emerging because they kind of live within two dimensions, two realities, two realms. And I feel like Mercury trine Jupiter and Saturn between December 6th and December 7th is getting these downloads, getting these like intuitive feelings and nudges about something that, again, ultimately, like you're going to start to gaslight yourself because we live in such like a brain logical intellectual focus like society of like you need to see the evidence of things, but this is where neurodivergence and maybe even like autistic people thrive because you might see an omen or a symbol or a synchronicity, or you just might hear like clairaudiently lyrics to a song, or you just may be guided to specific people, situations, and you know like that is the right direction. That is where the energy is pulling you towards. You can't, again, you can't articulate it, but it's there and you sense it. That is what happens when Mercury, the messenger of the gods, travels in trines to Jupiter and Saturn, which are the timekeepers of astrology. So that is the astrology for the first week of December. I send you so much love and support during this time. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. I had the initial intention for doing this every week for the month of 2025, and I think I've accomplished that so far, and I'm so proud of how much this channel has grown. I literally went from like I think like 300 followers to now I'm at almost 1900 in 1 year. Like that to me, I just feel so supported. And I came to this like real like I guess like pivot point in my own career this summer when I decided like I want to come out as an astrologer and somebody who does this full time. I told my parents, I started teaching astrology this year and just sharing more of like my observations and the way in which I use astrology. So I'm just incredibly honored that I'm ending 2025 at this like high note in my life. And again, I'm just so grateful for all of you. I will see you next week. Bye.